The Shooting Range. In this episode, Pages of History, WEP in Piston Engines, Special, New Extreme North map, and Metal Beasts, the Urban Abrams. The Fire and Ice update is already available to all players, which means it's time for our traditional parade of new vehicles. And this time it's opened by a tank. And what a tank it is! The new top American MBT, the Abrams M1A2 SEP. The first thing you notice is the additional armor kit for urban combat. It makes the machine look even more brutal. And we can't say it didn't look brutal enough before. Let's take a closer look at this new American vehicle. Its main caliber is the already familiar two-plane stabilized 120mm gun, with elevation angles between -10 and +20 degrees. It's also equipped with 4 machine guns and smoke grenade launchers. Its main ammo is found in the turret rear. The engine and transmission compartment is in the rear, the driver sits in the front, and 3 more crew members are in the turret. The sides of the hull are covered with reactive armor. A modern main battle tank is impossible without some high-tech gizmos, and the Abrams delivers. Get ready to bend your fingers. High-definition thermals, commander fire control, a laser rangefinder, a fire control system, smoke launchers and ESS, pintle-mounted machine guns, and blowout panels. And of course, the base that completes the MBT as a machine. A powerful engine, an advanced transmission, a quick turret drive, good depression angles, composite armor, a high rate of fire, a large first-level ammo stowage, and high-penetration sub-caliber rounds. Yet again, a discussion of a top MBT boils down to a simple listing of all the game mechanics. Well, what else could we do? Such are the tank elites, and the Abrams is one of the best among them. This new American tank has one noticeable difference from all previous models. We mean, of course, the add-on armor kit called Tusk, which is short for Tank Urban Survival Kit. The additional turrets with armor plates found on the turret top look all business, but unfortunately, they don't add much in terms of survivability in the game. What's much more interesting for our players is the era blocks on the hull sides. Maybe they could save the machine from an enemy round. Well, their efficiency isn't always at its peak, so to say. They can't protect you against the main type of rounds in top-tier battles. Even multiple triggered blocks can't prevent a sabot round from entering the crew compartment. On the other hand, sub-caliber rounds aren't the only type used. Some people haven't researched them yet and use high-explosive ones instead. And that's when the additional armor proves its worth. Damaging an Abrams with a high explosive is a tough task, especially at a distance. While the add-on armor kit improves the tank's survivability, it also increases its mass, which of course affects its mobility. And while its maximum speed is still pretty high, you can't help but notice the reduced dynamics. It's up to you whether you want the additional protection or not. With or without it, the Abrams is still one of the best top MBTs. War Emergency Power. So many times, pilots have used it to pull out of an otherwise imminent defeat. So many times it helped to get into a good firing position at just the right moment. It works great on both piston-engined and jet aircraft. But what is War Emergency Power? It seems pretty straightforward with turbojet engines. Here's the afterburner that adds fuel to burn the remaining oxygen in the jet stream. But how does it work in internal combustion engines? And why do some planes have it while others don't? Let's take a closer look. War Emergency Power is a pretty versatile term. It means different things when applied to engines of different types. In theory, you can get pretty much any kind of power from an internal combustion engine, but that's just a theory. Practice tells us that increasing power increases the number of possible issues. Things like durability, inertia, octane number limits, Fuel burn, oxidizer supply speeds, and other factors all come into play. We could go on for hours trying to build a complete list of engine power limits. That's why engineers take extra care trying to extract power from engines, taking possible consequences into account. This approach produced a number of terms. For instance, rated power means the power that an engine can work at for a certain rated time without breaking down. Again, in theory. Nominal power is the power that an engine can sustain for the longest time without stopping or failing. WEP is a mode that makes the engine sweat out the last drop of power regardless of its effect on service life. Let's inject all the fuel mix we can into the combustion chambers at the maximum possible pressure before the engine starts knocking. Rev the engine to maximum RPM before it falls apart from the load. Sometimes we may go even further and use anti-detonant injections together with the fuel mixture to cool down the cylinder blocks with water, an inert compound. This way we can increase the power output and even prolong the time an engine can work in this mode. We may also change the fuel mixture content, which usually includes 21% of oxygen, and swap it for nitrogen oxide that has 36% of atomic oxygen. And on top of all that, we can add a turbocharger to create a ludicrous intake pressure. To prevent the mixture from premature overheating and ignition, we can stick an intercooler in addition to the turbocharger. Everything to make each burn stage in each piston as intense as possible. One thing though, no engine can sustain this mode for long. For instance, the P-51D's motor in WEP, or War Emergency Power Mode, only has a service life of 4 to 5 hours depending on the modification. And all this mode did on that plane was force the induction of a regular air fuel mixture. Imagine what you could achieve if you added nitrogen oxide and water methanol injection. For example, here's the Focke-Wulf 190D. According to some data, its UMO 213 engine could only last 42 minutes in the WEP mode. After that, the engine had to be removed and sent for major depot overhaul. That's how complicated and multifaceted WEP mode is in piston engines. Welcome to a new mixed battle location. Today, we'd like to offer you another tour. We recommend you brew yourself a hot drink and wrap yourself in a tight blanket, for we're setting off towards the harsh Arctic. Are you warm? If so, let's go. The inspiration for this location was the Franz Josef Land, located in the Arctic Ocean. Expect to see endless ice, an abandoned military base, an offshore oil rig, a stuck icebreaker, and lots, and we mean lots, of snow. Let's start our tour in the southwestern part of the map. An airfield welcomes us here, although airfield is too big of a word for this. More like a long ice skating rink. Well, it's the Arctic, so no surprise here. Next to some container homes nearby, we see Point A. It provides quite a lot of cover, so maintaining defense won't be an issue here. The area is littered with vehicles perfectly blending with the general atmosphere. By the way, all these snowmobiles, ATVs, and trucks have never been featured in War Thunder before. Let's move towards the center via an empty but not so open environment. It's one of the unique features of this map. It's pretty flat and devoid of lush greenery, but its numerous ravines can easily hide even the tallest tanks, which means you can move around quite safely. The center welcomes us with a military base populated by hangars, barracks, and overhead crossings. Everything looks well adapted to the harsh local climate. Here, right under the main building, we can see Point B. Take extra care defending it. The supports allow for firing through. Moving further northeast via pretty tough off-road conditions, having overcome the quirks of the landscape, we arrive in a small village where Capture Point C is found. No use looking for farming fields here since permafrost isn't the best agricultural ground. The locals would probably survive on fishing, although by now their boats look completely retaken by nature. Not far away, you can see the landmark feature of this location, the stuck icebreaker. Ha! Wonder how much napalm you need to reach it. Tell us in the comments if you managed to pull it off. By the way, this isn't the only variant of this map. We've prepared multiple different missions even for the enduring confrontation mode. If you don't mind, we won't be spending much time there today. You know, it's a pretty similar environment. Just an icy desert in the middle of an ocean. Anyway, it's getting real cold. Let's go to the comments to warm up a little. Cue the intro. The first question was sent by a player called Spooderman. What's the difference between the G91R3 and the G91R4? Hi, Spooderman. The third modification has 30mm forward-firing guns, while the fourth one can carry air-to-air guided missiles. Rasbaz05 asks, why does the 17-pounder have different penetration values on different tanks even if they have the same ammo and gun? Hey Rasbaz, you probably mean the Comets and the Challenger's guns. They're very similar and even use the same ammo, but they aren't complete copies. That's why they have different penetration rates. Another question comes from Ethan Matt. When should I use MGs instead of the main cannon when playing tanks? Hello, Ethan. It's very simple. Use the machine guns when you can quickly damage the target with them and keep the main caliber for other enemies. Jaden Ralph writes, tips on how to play the Harrier family? Hi, Jaden. The landmark feature of this family is its high thrust-to-weight ratio. In practice, it means that a Harrier can quickly recover its speed after a turn-based fight. And the last comment for today was written by Clements JG BR. When did you guys rework the T-3485 D5T3D model? And did you even tell anyone about it? It looks so great! Hey there. Thanks for your appreciation. Our artists worked real hard on it. By the way, we've also reworked the Jagdpanther and IS tanks recently. Check them out. That's it for today. You've been watching The Shooting Range by Gaijin Entertainment, and the next episode will premiere the following Sunday at 4 p.m. GMT or noon Eastern Time. Subscribe and click the bell if you don't want to miss our next videos. Don't try to dabble in your car's turbocharger. Leave a like, share your thoughts and comments, and see you next week.